It's been a while since OpenAI's released one of its most powerful features on ChatGPT called Code Interpreter. I've been testing and playing around with it for quite some time now, and I have to say it is absolutely mind-blowing. It basically allows you to upload files and get ChatGPT to read, analyze, and even edit it. So people on the internet actually went crazy over this feature. Someone even used it to create a fighting game where you can get Elon Musk to fight Mark Zuckerberg. So in today's video, we will explore this powerful function in detail, look at how it works, its limitation, and do stick with me to the end of the video as I will share 3 hacks that not many people are aware of. So let's start off with the basics. What is a code interpreter? Well, code interpreter is basically ChatGPT on steroids. It is a plugin that is able to execute Python code in a sandbox. Hence, you can get it to do data analysis, plot findings, or charts, and even convert or edit files. More importantly, there is now an upload function where you can upload literally anything from Excel sheets to PDFs to images and even videos. This means you can now do data science without having to code. And that's not all. Because it is able to run Python in a virtual environment, you will be able to interact with Python libraries and packages that are pre-installed in ChatGPT to perform a wide variety of complex tasks. These complex tasks can include things like facial detection, optical character recognition, which is something that allows you to detect words on images. And what makes Code Interpreter stand out most is its capability to self-prompt. This essentially makes ChatGPT into an auto-GPT that is able to self-execute tasks and think of next steps to complete the task. I have a video on how to maximize Code Interpreter to create your very own AI learning assistant. The link is in the description below if you haven't watched it. So apart from that, previously, when you're using ChatGPT, you will need to test out and modify prompts or even prime the model to perform more complex tasks. With Code Interpreter, we are starting to move away from the need to refine prompts to something where all you need is just an end goal. ChatGPT will then, based off your end goal, to figure things out for you to reach that goal. So in other words, the capabilities of AI are slowly moving away from ideation and slowly towards execution. With that in mind, Code Interpreter, or rather ChatGPT, is still in its initial stages. There are still many limitations that can hinder the outcome you are going for when using Code Interpreter. Let's discuss some of these limitations before we go into our Code Interpreter hacks. So the first limitation of Code Interpreter that I want to talk about is its context window. Now this is not really a limitation of Code Interpreter, but more of a limitation of ChatGPT in general. If you have watched my videos, I have emphasized a lot on the limited context window that we have, especially if you're using ChatGPT version on the web. In short, if your prompts and the AI generations are too long, it tends to not remember the stuff outside of that context window, hence affecting your final output. Currently, ChatGPT token limit is 4K for the GPT-4 model in the ChatGPT Plus version that you use on the web. And the token limit is 8K if you're using the GPT-4 API, which require you to whitelist for it. The second limitation is internet access. Code Interpreter is not able to access the internet, so if you are planning to prime it with information, it won't be able to access websites. There is, however, a workaround which I'll be sharing later. Some other smaller limitations includes a file size upload limitation of up to 100 MB. And you are only able to upload one file at a time, which can be solved by zipping up all your files if you have multiple files to upload. Lastly, Code Interpreter seems to also have like a timeout window while it's generating. Especially when it couldn't solve a problem, it will just keep trying, and until a point, it will just load infinitely and leave you hanging. So at that point in time, you probably have to click on the regeneration button to regenerate the whole prompt. At the same time, leaving the chat inactive for a while can also trigger a complete timeout, right? Which render the chat useless, right? Like this message over here. So if you leave the chat and you come back later, you are actually not able to continue the conversation with the AI. So with these limitations, let's see if the hacks that I'll be sharing next will help us solve some of these problems. Okay, so starting off with hack number 1, which is getting internet access for Code Interpreter. Okay, so as I mentioned, Code Interpreter, we are not able to get access to the internet. And so what you are left with is a base model of ChatGPT-4, which have a training data cut off of 2021. So in other words, if you want to ask questions about things that are after 2021 happenings or updates of anything that's after 2021, they won't be able to tell you the answer. So usually what we will do is we will go to ChatGPT-4 and go under plugins. We will activate plugins that allows us to access the internet to scrape the web, right? So things like Web Pilot, Keymate AI search, and also your Vox script where you can get access to the YouTube videos, right? You will be able to prime it to get information from there and hence getting the ChatGPT to provide you with more updated answers. But in this case, if you are using Code Interpreter, because it's a standalone plugin on its own, you will not be able to use those plugins that we mentioned earlier on. So how can we work around this problem, right? If you go to this website called bbomb.com, you will be able to see a list of the accepted formats that you can upload into ChatGPT. And one of them, under number 8, markup language files, is HTML. So HTML, basically what it does is that you can go to any website and you can press Ctrl S to download the HTML file of that website. Okay, so once you have this HTML file, you can go back to ChatGPT and you can actually upload them into ChatGPT via the upload button over here. So I've already done one example here. I've used Code Interpreter and I try to get an understanding on whether Code Interpreter understands what is function calling by OpenAI. So basically, function calling is a very recent development that happened a couple of months back, right? It's a new feature that allows us to, instead of just prompting, right, we can set instructions into functions and get ChatGPT to execute those instructions using function calling. But Code Interpreter using the ChatGPT base model doesn't know that, right? Because this is a new feature that only happened in 2023. So it tells me over here that it doesn't know and its training cutoff is September 2021. Okay, in short, it tells me that it's not able to give me the answer, right? So I went to this website, I press Ctrl S, I download the HTML file, I go back and I upload it in, right? So my prompt here is that I got it to use this Python package called Beautiful Soup, which is, I'll actually touch on more about Python packages later on. But what exactly this Beautiful Soup does is that it's able to scrape the file that I've uploaded, right, which is the HTML that I've downloaded from their website, and it's extracting the example that comes after this string of code. Now, the reason why I need to put in this HTML H1 tag is also because sometimes ChatGPT is very lazy. Okay, so if you don't specify this, they will kind of run through the HTML from top down and it will just tell you that it's not able to find the things that you want. It could be because of a resource restriction, it might be restricted by its maximum length, there might be a token limit issue, that's why they are trying to really restrict the use of it. So what you have to do is to be very specific, alright? So I will have to go to the website and I have to go down to the portion that I want it to start extracting, right? I will just right click and I'll inspect element, and over here you will be able to see its HTML code. So by right clicking on this and copying this element, you will then be able to paste in the exact HTML tag where you want Code Interpreter to start reading from. Okay, so after doing that, it tells me that yes, it's able to parse the HTML file with Beautiful Soup and it will start searching for the HTML tag. So they import this Python package and they start running this whole code in Python in their sandbox. And now it gave me an example of very quick text, right? So I told it to just extract all the examples and then explain function calling to me, which is what exactly it did, right? It tells me the definition, it simplified it for me as well, and I got it to give me even more examples so I can find out what's the practical use of this function calling, right? And that's exactly what they did, right? So they give me even more examples here, right, in this JSON format. So basically that's it, right? So if you need internet access to get updated with new information, or let's say that you're writing a content and you will need to prime the model with probably your competitors' content, or you want to get tonalities from some other websites, you could do it this way. If you have more than one file, you can save up all the HTML files, zip them up together and upload them. If you want to prime it with videos, they do accept videos as well, which is MP4, AVI, QuickTime, which is MOV file. They also accept audio files, right? So this is the power of Code Interpreter, right? So that's the first hack. If you have benefited from the first hack, do give me a thumbs up, and that helps the YouTube algorithm to get more viewers on my video as well. Okay, so let's move on to hack number 2. Okay, next, moving on to hack number 2, which is extending our context window on ChatGPT using Code Interpreter. So earlier on, I mentioned one of the main flaws of ChatGPT or Code Interpreter is basically its limited context window. So once you exceed this context window, any conversation that you have had with the AI above it, or any prompts that you have done earlier, or any generation that you have created from the AI will all be forgotten. It will be as if the conversation with the AI never took place at all. So how do we usually work around this in the past is that with ChatGPT, we will try to summarize the entire conversation and use that summary in the next conversation window with the AI and try to carry on for that. But this is just more like a half measure that probably can't give you a good result, right? So with Code Interpreter today, the great thing is that you can now upload files, and at the same time, you can actually get Code Interpreter to save up or record down every single line of text that you have in your chat history and save them up into a zip file or save them up into a TXT file. From this TXT file, you can then re-upload it or insert it back into the conversation, either in the same window or to create a new chat. You can use the same file with the chat history and insert it in as a new prompt using this history as a baseline for context. In other words, you can now carry on the conversation sometime later, and this also will solve the timeout issue that we talked about earlier on under the limitation segment, right? So you can always save up the entire conversation that you have had with the AI at the end of the conversation if you are planning to leave the window. So let me just quickly show show you an example. We are going back to the previous conversation that we have had with the AI that we use in Hack 1. Over here, I've just continued the prompt and I've gotten the ChatGPT to record down or to save up the previous message, the examples and the definitions and also the chat history into a file so that I can actually use it for a future chat. And I didn't know what file type to use, so I got it to recommend me, right? And I can't really say I want it in a TXT file because there's a lot of JSON code here, there's a lot of HTML code as well. So I want them to really save it up into a file that is easily accessible by both a human and also a computer, right? So, and sure enough, it did a pretty good job. It tells me that JSON format and also the HTML format, regular text, is best used with Markdown format, right? So it gave me the download file and I've actually saved it up. So I'm going to open it right here. This is the file that is saved. It actually recorded down every single thing, or rather the more important points of function calling, the definition, the examples and everything else, right? And the very important parts. With this downloaded file, I just open up a new chat, and what I did is I've uploaded the same empty file and I got it to explain what is function calling. In Hack 1, when I've gotten Code Interpreter to tell me what is function calling, it wasn't able to answer it and it just gave the excuse that its data set is cut off from September 2021. I have to scrape other websites HTML for it to understand what function calling is. So in this case, when I start off a new chat, after uploading the file and I got it to explain, it immediately tells me what's the definition, it immediately tells me the examples and so on. So you can see how the previous context is now being transferred over to a new conversation easily, right? So that's what you can do. If you are running out of tokens, you can always just play safe by saving up your conversation. You can even put it into a system prompt under custom instructions to get it to trigger a save of your chat conversation using a keyword, right? I haven't explored that yet, but I think it should work. You know, this is something that I probably can try out in another video. Okay, that's all for hack number 2. So let's move on to our last and final hack number 3, which is getting familiar with Python packages. So as mentioned earlier in the introduction, Code Interpreter is able to access over 300 Python packages like you see over here in their virtual environment. So example, if you want to generate a report, right, it will automatically pick the right Python package that is meant to generate charts or graphs. So why do we still need to get familiar with different Python packages? And that's because of several reasons. Of course, the first one is that sometimes Code Interpreter can get really lazy and they might just generate a series of code for you to execute it yourself locally on your own PC, meaning you will need to know a little bit of Python in order to do that, right? But that's not what we want, right? Because most of us probably are not coders, so we want them to execute it directly in the virtual environment itself and just give us the file, right? So another reason is also that sometimes they might not really understand our prompt so well, so they will actually go one big round of different testing, right? Testing out different Python packages in order to get you to the outcome that you want, and there will be a lot of back and forth, so it will also affect the context window as well, right? And by also telling them what Python package they should use, it removes a lot of guesswork, it removes a lot of trial and error, it removes a lot of getting the AI to go back and forth with you, right? So then you can actually cut short the whole process and get the AI to do what you actually want it to generate. So in total, there are actually over 300 Python packages, right? Gabriel Coven over here has kindly actually put together everything in this Twitter post. I'll link it in the description below, and he even added in this one-line description of what each of these Python package does, right? So of course, if this is too much for you, not to worry, there's also another website that I'll paste below, right? And it sort of helped to identify some of the more popular ones, okay? And that is from this whfbrian.com, right? So you can see here that, oh, for data analysis and manipulation, you can use pandas, numpy, scipy, machine learning is all this bunch, right? Like I mentioned earlier on, data visualization is this matplot library, or seaborn, and image processing, you can use all this, right? For website scraping and stuff, they have this beautiful soup as well, right? So over here, I have an example, okay, which I use ChatGPT alongside Code Interpreter to help me to remove filler words from my own video, okay? And here's the example, right? So what I did is just zip up my video file along with the SRT file, which is my transcript file for the video, and I've used this system prompt that I've gotten from All About AI's channel, right? So I've put his channel in the description below as well, right? So I've used his prompt because I think this is one of the better ones. I'll probably not go through every single line, but it just basically is more like a persona prompt, and these are all your skills, these are how you approach data analysis, right? And you communicate very well and things like that. So it's just a persona prompt. But the more important one is this thing below, right? So I've said something like, oh, so I can see that you use Librosa and also FFmpeg installed. From this video, I want to mute filler words like and you know. Please provide me the download link of just the edited audio. Do not cut the fillers out, but just mute those parts, right? So that I can actually compare it side by side with the actual video. Please show which parts you're going to mute, okay? And then I've got it to just run it. So because I specify specifically Librosa and FFmpeg, which Librosa is to edit audio and FFmpeg is to edit on video content, right? So it can do things like, you know, extracting audio from videos, and then Librosa can identify the different wavelength of the audio file and also, you know, mute certain parts of the audio. Okay, so it ran through the file, it used my SRT file, which is the subtitle, to identify where are the different filler words, right? It even extracted my audio using the Librosa library and display the wavelength, right? It carried on running and it tried out different method, and then step 5 is starting to go and detect the different filler words from the timestamps. As you can see over here is the original audio and the one that's being muted. So they kind of like find out where are the parts and then they just mute those parts, right? I'm going to show you the end result right now. Okay, so over here I've opened up my video editor, right? And I've uploaded the edited audio file with all the muted filler words, okay? Alongside with the original audio file and the original video. So in the original video, there will be subtitles where you can see all the different fillers, right? So like the and the you know, right? So you will know whether is it accurate or not. I'll just play a very quick short snippet of it and then you can see for yourself what is the outcome like. So that's it. So the filler words are here, prompt, and here, custom instructions prompt, and here, right? Right, so you notice that they actually removed the entire sentence where the filler words are. You could change this up a little bit. Do use this prompt if you want to try it out. Okay, so I'm going to stop right here. Basically, this first iteration of removing filler words, I think is a pretty good attempt because it did remove the filler words, but instead of just the filler words, they removed the entire sentence. Okay, this is also partially due to the subtitle file they have uploaded, right? They are actually broken it down into like sentences rather than word for word. So they've just basically based off the SRT file to go remove all the filler words. Right now, Code Interpreter is still not advanced to that stage where it's able to give you a very quality outcome, right? But in time to come, they will be able to allow you to perform tasks like that. But this goes back to our hack number 3, right? Which is using specific Python libraries or packages. So in this case, we have used the selected packages to remove audio, or to rather to mute the audio file, to edit the audio file. And we also use certain packages to extract the audio file out of the video file. And then based on that, because we have the subtitle file inserted, they are able to find out where the filler words are and then mute those areas or mute those sentences. So this is a good attempt. I'm quite surprised myself of the outcome. Of course, it didn't do the best or the most ideal outcome that I've wanted, but it still managed to edit my audio file and give me an outcome that's close to what I want. Okay, so this is the power of AI. There is so much use cases of Python libraries and packages, which is why I've said right now you don't really need coding to do anything anymore. In the near future, you probably just need to prompt and you can just run Python codes in a sandbox or in a virtual environment to do things like that, right? So that's it, right? This is the 3 hacks that I want to share. If you like these 3 hacks and you have benefited from me, do give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. In the next couple of videos, I'll probably be doing more on other large language models. I might also be doing some video on text to image generation, like on Midjourney, and also text to video generation, right? Which is things like our Runway ML. Right now, it's really popular where people are generating AI videos, right? Using just Midjourney's images. So I might be doing a video on that. So of course, do stay tuned and stay safe.